it cannot be pushed aside the importance of this 2026 getting off to this incredible start. And folks, at the time of their commitments, #1 class in the nation. And I am someone that will scream at you guys 1,000 times. Don't focus so much about stars, about rankings. Auburn has the #1 class in 2026 as of their commitments. That will change, that will ebb, that will flow, but that is huge. First up, Austin, Big Cat Weekend. When I say the phrase, what comes to your mind?
Rawr. That's literally what came to my mind when you said it.
That's not what I was expecting.
Big Cat Weekend. Big cats on.
Yeah, you need some sleep. You need some sleep.
I do. It is. I don't know how long. If to me, it still feels like a new thing, but I think it's just because I remember each one.
Right.
But it's really not. I mean, it's been happening for, gosh, 15 years now, something like that along those lines. And so, I mean, it is the recruiting event. It started before any of these other ones. It is the premier recruiting event for Auburn football, and it's always around right at this end of the summertime. And there's always big names, and this year was no different.
It was arguably, and this isn't my phrasing, but I'm going to say it. This comes from people who have been covering these type of events much longer than me and have the pedigree of working for recruiting sites. Some were suggesting this was the greatest Big Cat ever. And it, as Austin just alluded to, whether it feels young or not, it still is a young event because if I'm not mistaken, it started under Gene Chizik, maintained through Malzahn, kind of didn't happen for another coach, and was brought back for this coach. So maybe that's why, it feels a little bit new because we forgot about it. Apparently,
probably that's very true. That's exactly what it is.
That's exactly what it is. But may be the biggest Big Cat of all time. I'm going to go ahead and atone for this mistake I made, not here, but I believe it was on a TikTok live. I had a viewer come on and say, this person is reporting we're going to have 5+ commits during this weekend for football. And I said, anything's possible. But boy, was I wrong when I said I highly doubt it. As of this afternoon, and who knows, there may be another one while we're doing this live on a Sunday evening.
There certainly could be.
There certainly could be. We wouldn't know about it. But 6 commits, Austin. Is this the greatest Big Cat of all time?
I think so. And there's going to be people say, well, half of them were juniors. Okay, there's still commits and people in the boat. And these are highly ranked guys from both classes. No, it was a massive weekend. And when you factor in all the names that were just there, not even ones that committed, but that were there and invited and took up an opportunity to be at Auburn for this, it matters. You see that play down the road and guys who are making decisions later on, even in years. So it was a big deal. I do think it was probably the best and biggest that we've had. Certainly in a long time. I think a lot of people remember that very first one, but that might have some of the first kind of feel to it.
Right.
This one was huge, no doubt. And I saw a lot of what you were saying too, that there were guys who've been covering these and then some that saying this had a different feel.
Yeah, it did have a different feel. It felt almost like the fulfillment of what everybody's expectation was for Hugh Freeze about why he was hired. And it's crazy when you have these expectations and someone meets them. It's pretty cool. Like,
feels good.
I didn't know we were capable of 6 commit. The reason I said it wasn't going to happen is because a lot of the times, and this has been the way I've always talked about Big Cat Weekend, you may see 2, maybe 3 commits, which is a great weekend. But what you see after that is the big thing, those relationships that are built, the hype that is built that makes somebody a few days later, a few weeks later say, you know what, forget this. I can't replicate the feeling I had being with these guys, a brotherhood being built at Auburn. So that's why I kind of said, no, that's probably not possible. Boy, was I wrong. 6 commits. Let's walk through some of these right here. I'll go through the list and maybe we can talk about, if not each one of them, at least some of them. The first 3 are for the class of 2026. Hezekiah, Were you saying something there?
I was just gonna say that makes me feel so old.
Why does that make you feel old?
2026, Kyle.
How do you think that makes me feel?
Oh, I know. I mean, but
You see,
golly, the
you
year
see.
just keeps getting old. They keep getting younger and younger.
Here, this is for the viewers, not the listeners. If you can see the
Yeah,
hairline for this
his
year,
hairline.
this is 2026. This down here was like 2020. I don't know what I'm saying. Apparently, I need sleep as well.
You
Okay,
need to work yourself up. You're about to have some names you gotta really work on here.
that's not for this segment though. I can do these names. I can do all these.
Oh, well,
Hezekiah Harris,
good
edge
job.
rusher for 2026. Again, these first three are from 2026. Shadarius Tootle, one of the best names ever, and I will have so much fun with that if he follows through with his commitment, which was a linebacker and also linebacker for 2026. Jermichael Garrett, which was probably the first, like, I want to call it surprise, but just kind of like the one that started building that
Mm-hmm.
hype up a little bit. So that did it for 2026. But this is when 2025, the current commit class started getting going. Blake Woodby out of Maryland. Interesting. We don't go to Maryland all that often, but we got one out of there. Antonio Coleman. More on that in a little bit. And then today, if it wasn't a big enough weekend, we secured our punter for the future. So most of you are like rolling your eyes at this. Folks, this is actually truly important because we're about to have to replace Oscar Chapman. John McGuire, a Alabama kid, has decided that he will throw his leg, I was throw hat, but leg into the ring with the Tigers. That is your, at this moment, us recording on a Sunday evening, list for Big Cat. And I bet, say it, Austin.
Oh, we ain't done yet.
We ain't done yet. So, all right. Who do you want to talk about first, Austin? Like, what
Well,
comes to
I'd like to talk about the 2026 guys just because they really got it started, and I know a lot of people were not as excited as you would be because these guys have so much longer to go, or we had heard these guys were close anyway. But for them to be kind of and all three big time defensive guys, I think that matters to with DJ Durkin being so new, with a lot of this defensive staff being new. To get these guys believing and in the boat is big and can lay a foundation of something you hope you don't have to worry about as you really decide to press on that 2026 class even more. So all three of those guys are big time talents. All three of those guys are in state, I believe. Is that right, Kyle?
That is correct. Hezekiah, I believe, is a North Alabama, and the other two are South Alabama. I think I may have them all mixed up there a little bit, but yes,
I think you're right. And I think that's a theme that you will continue to see with Big Cat and the recruiting focus this year, especially, is that Hugh Freeze is very, very, very focused on securing the state, and that's not been an easy task in recent years. So really excited about that. I think out of the top 10, there might be 3 that are not committed to Auburn right now, of those that are in state.
Right.
That's a big deal. And 2 of them are going out of state. So, and one of them might be flipping over to the good guys soon enough. So,
do we have a prediction?
I think Auburn. We'll see. We'll see. There's Big Cat. Big Cat could lay foundations for future things, But
I think we heard a prediction. I'm going to hold him to it.
With go ahead and setting up that next class to be the same as this one, and securing top in-state guys. That's important.
Yeah, it really is. It cannot be pushed aside, the importance of this 2026 getting off to this incredible start. And folks, at the time of their commitments, #1 class in the nation. And I am someone that will scream at you guys 1,000 times. Don't focus so much about stars, about rankings, but it is still fun to talk about. Auburn has the #1 class in 2026 as of their commitments. That will change, that will ebb, that will flow, but that is huge. We are really excited to have Blake Woodby here because this feels like one that's been coming, and a former Ohio State commit. I mean, you just can't say enough about Coach McGriff and bring what he's able to do recruiting as our cornerbacks coach. So that's a good one there. Jermichael Garrett winning a battle. He is down from Mobile-ish area, or the southern portion of Alabama. So you have to compete with Alabama down there. That's their stronghold, but also LSU. And that's who you beat out in most likelihood for Jermichael Garrett in this. Let's talk about it. let's talk about the interesting one.
Yep.
Antonio Coleman, let's take it all the way back. A Alabama commit who flipped at Auburn, who flipped back to Alabama, who flipped back to Auburn this weekend. Love having him here. Super excited. Are we done yet with this kid?
Yeah. I think it's a weird case, and it's always weird when they're flipping back and forth between the rivals in the state, right?
Right.
It's even weirder when it's this many times. I think that, there's a lot of people making that out to be a little more, I think, than it is. I think the kid does love the flair of recruiting and the fun of it all. And hey, we have to ask ourselves sometimes, whose fault is that when we've made it this big of a deal? So I'm just going to leave that there. But I also think, I think he committed to Auburn when Jeremy Garrett was still here, who had done an impressive job with recruiting on defensive line. He leaves, and it causes some worry for a second. So I think that him being able to come back shows me he was always still thinking about Auburn, and that he's still very interested. I think this is just my speculation purely that there's probably been some discussions with him and his hopeful and eventual future coaches, like, hey, the game, it's a fun game, but the leash is short. And so I don't know that for certain, but I would think, with 18-year-old kids, you want to shoot them straight. And so I love that he's in the boat. We have a good history of Antonio Coleman's at Auburn. So I hope that he is the next great one.
It would be exciting to have him here officially when all things are said and done. And look, it's his life. He's a young man trying to figure things out for himself. I'm sure he's enjoying this recruiting process more than most people, I would say. But it's his life and his decision. So whatever way you want to go about it, you do you, I guess. But happy to have you part of the class. And I don't want this to be lost either, just to wrap us up. Most people are going to be like, woohoo, you got a punter at the end of the weekend. Folks, Oscar Chapman's about to leave. The man's dominant. He already should be a Ray Guy Award winner. He's not yet. Maybe he will be this season. Literally has probably been one of the only secure things on this team the last couple of years. The wonder from down under. But John is coming in from Alabaster, playing for Thompson High, which is a very good program if you're not aware, in Alabama. And he'll be the heir apparent in a sense. What this is interesting to me, Austin, is you and I were trying to figure out what's going on with Towns Magoo and him coming in while we have Evan McPherson. We now have some context knowing what Evan's been dealing. I'm sorry, not Evan, Alex. I always get the two mixed up. His brother playing for the Bengals, former Florida player. Alex McPherson. We kind of understand some of that now. I had the theory that Towns was going to end up being the punter, but probably not the case at this point. But here's what we can say. Auburn has no issues with kicker. And John is evidence of that as one of the best punters out there in the country right now. Number 2, number 1, depending on where you look at. So across the board, Austin, when you look up and down these are all technically defensive players because linebacker, edge, defensive line, defensive back, punting is a defensive tactic. Am I stretching too far with that description?
No, I think that's fair. And I think that, like I said earlier, I think that's good to see that emphasis. I know Hugh Freeze is offensive coach. We loved it that they get the offensive recruits get the love and the attraction, right? But to have a new staff like this reeling in some defensive recruits is big. And John Allen McGuire is no stranger to Auburn, with his brother formerly being here. So we're excited to have him. It doesn't hurt that he's got two high school teammates who also happen to be announcing their commitments this week. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see if that plays a factor tomorrow and Saturday.
You might say we ain't done.
You just might.
Just might.